My name is Evelyn Reed. I'm 34 years old, and I'm a property manager for a small real estate investment firm here in Dayton, Ohio. The envelope felt impossibly heavy in my hand, far heavier than the thin legal papers inside. I stood on the porch of 1422, Willow Creek Lane, the familiar wreath on the door a stark contrast to the official document I was about to deliver. Inside, I could hear the muffled sounds of children, a television, and then, the distinct, almost melodic chimes of a grandmother clock that I knew stood in their living room. I took a deep breath, adjusted the strap of my bag, and pressed the doorbell. When Sarah Miller opened the door, her smile faltered as soon as she saw the official-looking papers in my hand. Her eyes, usually warm and tired, narrowed. Beside her, just visible through the doorway, were two framed photographs on a side table, a boy with a mischievous grin and a girl with bright, curious eyes. Her twins, David and Emily, named after the children she'd lost years ago. I felt a familiar knot tighten in my stomach, but I held her gaze. This wasn't personal, not anymore. This was business, and it was long past due. What Sarah didn't know, what she refused to see, was that this wasn't just about the rent. This was about the slow, deliberate erosion of trust, a calculated manipulation that had finally reached its breaking point. And I was the one who had to deliver the consequences. To understand how I, a property manager who prided herself on fair tenant relations, ended up serving eviction papers to a family I'd tried so hard to help, you need to go back about 2 years. Our firm, Henderson Properties, owns about 20 rental homes in and around Dayton. 1422, Willow Creek Lane was one of our nicer properties, a 3-bedroom ranch with a big yard, perfect for a family. When Tom and Sarah Miller applied, they seemed ideal. Tom was a foreman at a local manufacturing plant. Sarah worked part-time from home doing data entry. They had twin toddlers, David and Emily, and their application was solid. During the background check, I learned about their tragic history. They'd had 2 older children, a son named David who died in a car accident at age 8, and a daughter named Emily who succumbed to a rare childhood illness at 6. When their twins were born a few years later, they'd named them David and Emily. It was heartbreaking. I remember reading that detail in their file and feeling a profound wave of sympathy. It explained the slight melancholy in Sarah's eyes, the way Tom held his twins with an almost fierce protectiveness. I felt certain they would be good tenants, stable and appreciative. And for the first year, they were. Rent was always on time, the house was well maintained, and they were polite and responsive to any maintenance requests. I genuinely liked them. Then, about 14 months ago, the payments started to get erratic. The first time, the rent was 5 days late. Sarah called me, her voice tight with stress, explaining that Tom's hours had been cut back unexpectedly, and one of the twins, little Emily, had a bad ear infection that required an urgent doctor's visit and expensive medication not fully covered by insurance. She apologized profusely, promised to pay by the end of the week, and asked for a grace period. I remembered their story, the lost Emily, and my heart went out to her. I told her not to worry, just get the payment in as soon as she could. Mr. Henderson, my boss, was a stickler for prompt payments, but I vouched for them. They're good people, Mr. Henderson, I'd said. They've been through a lot. He reluctantly agreed to the extension. The payment did come in, but it was just the beginning. The pattern repeated itself. Every 2 or 3 months, the rent would be late, always accompanied by a new, increasingly dire story. Tom's plant was facing layoffs, Sarah's part-time work was inconsistent, one of the twins had a constant stream of minor illnesses that required urgent care visits. Always, the children were at the center of their pleas. "We just want to give David and Emily a stable home," Sarah would say, her voice cracking. "After everything we've been through, we can't imagine uprooting them." Each time, I found myself making excuses for them to Mr. Henderson, bending the rules, offering payment plans, extending deadlines. I truly believed they were victims of circumstance, struggling to make ends meet while trying to honor the memory of their lost children through their living ones. What I didn't understand yet was how effectively I was being played. The turning point came 6 months ago. The Millers were 3 weeks behind on rent, owing nearly $1,800. Mr. Henderson was furious. "Evelyn," he'd said, his voice unusually sharp, "you're running a business, not a charity. This is costing us money. You need to be firm." I knew he was right. I called Sarah, preparing myself for another round of apologies and promises. This time, however, she sounded less distressed and more annoyed. She launched into a familiar tale about Tom's plant possibly closing, and how they were barely scraping by. "It's just so hard, Evelyn," she sighed. "With David and Emily needing so much, and the memories of our other children, it's a constant struggle. We just need a little more time." I was about to offer another extension when I saw something that stopped me cold. I was scrolling through my local community Facebook group, looking for recommendations for a plumber, when I saw a post from Sarah Miller. It was a photo of her and Tom, beaming, standing in front of a brand new, gleaming white SUV with a huge red bow on it. The caption read, "Early Christmas present from Tom. So excited for our new family adventures with David and Emily." My stomach dropped. A brand new car, when they were 3 weeks late on rent and claiming financial hardship? The cognitive dissonance was jarring. I felt a cold wave of betrayal wash over me. The children, the dead siblings, the constant struggle, it all felt like a carefully constructed narrative designed to elicit sympathy and avoid responsibility. That detail mattered later. I confronted Sarah about the car, gently at first, asking if their financial situation had improved. She stammered, claiming it was a gift from an anonymous relative, a loan they had to pay back, anything to deflect. But the damage was done. My empathy had curdled into suspicion. I started to look at their situation differently. I reviewed all their payment history, cross-referenced it with their stories, and noticed a pattern. The rent was always late, but they never seemed to miss a beat on other things. Their internet bill, which I knew from a previous maintenance issue, was always paid. Their cell phones, their cable. It wasn't just a matter of prioritizing. It was a matter of selective financial distress. The final straw came 2 months ago. They were 2 months behind on rent, totaling over $3,500. Mr. Henderson had given me a final ultimatum: either I served them the eviction papers, or he would find someone who would. He even suggested that my job might be on the line if I couldn't handle this basic aspect of property management. I knew he was serious. I had tried everything. I sent certified letters, made phone calls, even offered to help them connect with local financial aid resources, but they refused, always insisting they just needed a little more time. They started avoiding my calls, only responding to texts with vague promises. I even drove by the house a few times, seeing new landscaping work, fresh paint on the shutters, small, non-essential improvements that screamed of discretionary income. I spent days agonizing over it. I thought about the twins, David and Emily, and the heartbreaking reason for their names. I thought about the instability this would cause them. But I also thought about my job, about the trust Mr. Henderson had placed in me, and about the blatant disrespect the Millers had shown. Their grief, which I had so deeply respected, now felt like a weapon they wielded to avoid accountability. I realized that my initial empathy had blinded me to their true character. They weren't just struggling, they were taking advantage. They were counting on my sympathy, on the poignant story of their lost children, to keep me from doing my job. I sat down with Mr. Henderson, laid out all the documentation, the payment ledger, the correspondence, the dates of the missed payments, even a printout of Sarah's social media post about the new SUV. He listened, nodded, and then simply said, "Evelyn, you've done everything you can. It's time to move forward." He had the eviction papers drawn up by our firm's lawyer. I was given the task of serving them, partly as a consequence of my initial leniency, partly because I knew the situation best. It was a difficult pill to swallow, but I understood. So, there I was, standing on their porch. When Sarah's initial smile faded, she opened the door wider, her eyes flicking from the envelope to my face. "Evelyn?" "What's this?" she asked, her voice laced with an edge I hadn't heard before. I kept my voice even, professional. "Sarah, I'm here to serve you with these eviction papers from Henderson Properties. You've been given multiple notices and extensions, and unfortunately, the outstanding balance has not been paid." I held out the envelope. She didn't take it immediately. Her gaze darted to the framed photos on the side table, little David and Emily, smiling innocently. "Eviction? You can't be serious," she said, her voice rising. "After everything? We just need a little more time. You know our situation, Evelyn. With David and Emily, and the memories of our other children, we can't just pick up and leave. Where are we supposed to go?" "Sarah, I understand this is difficult," I replied, pushing the envelope gently into her hand. "But this is a business decision. The terms of your lease have been repeatedly violated. We've tried to work with you on numerous occasions." Tom appeared behind her, his face darkening as he saw the papers. He snatched them from her hand, his eyes blazing. "What is this, Evelyn? Are you really doing this to us? After all we've told you? After what we've been through? How can you be so heartless?" "Tom, this isn't personal," I stated, my voice firm despite the tremor in my hands. "It's about the lease agreement. The rent is 2 months overdue. The company can't sustain that. It's always about the money with you people, isn't it?" Sarah accused, stepping forward. "You don't care about families, about grief, about children named after their dead siblings. You just want your pound of flesh." The word stung, but I stood my ground. "My job is to manage these properties fairly for everyone, Sarah. That includes ensuring rent is paid. We've exhausted all other options." I looked directly at Tom. "You have 30 days to vacate the property, as outlined in these documents. If you have any questions about the process, you can contact the lawyer's office directly." I offered no more explanations, no more apologies. I simply turned and walked away, the sound of their angry voices fading behind me. The knot in my stomach remained, but it was no longer a knot of guilt. It was a knot of resolve. The next few weeks were tense. Sarah called me multiple times, alternating between tearful pleas and furious accusations. She even tried to rally some sympathy in the community, posting vague complaints about heartless landlords on social media, but she never mentioned the new SUV or the months of unpaid rent. I ignored her calls and referred her to the lawyer, as per procedure. Tom showed up at our office once, demanding to speak to Mr. Henderson, but was quickly escorted out. They even tried to claim some structural issues with the house as a reason to withhold rent, but our maintenance records proved otherwise. They did eventually move out, just a few days before the final deadline. I went to the house for the final walkthrough. It was empty, stripped bare of all their belongings. The walls had some scuffs, and the yard was a bit overgrown, but nothing too severe. As I walked through the quiet living room, I noticed the faint, rectangular marks on the side table where the framed photographs of the twins, David and Emily, had once stood. The absence was palpable. They had been a constant, poignant reminder of a tragedy I had so deeply empathized with. Now, they were just an empty space, a ghost of a story that had been used, twisted, and ultimately, broken. I closed the front door behind me, locking it with a click that echoed in the empty house. It wasn't a victory, not really. It was just the quiet, necessary end to a chapter that had taught me a harsh lesson about the difference between genuine empathy and calculated manipulation.